Sa Trinca Bathing Beach Bar is arranged on the type of white sand bathing beach how Ibiza is renowned to. For the summer time of year, hand-frowns hover of the rooftop, dancing piece of music pulses of the speakers, and supple, youthful beach hidalgos fall by for a deceased dinner and common cold Spanish beers. But love lot of the Isle's outdoor air venues, Sa Trinca has newly found himself possessing to drop in link in hard new regulation. The bar was said it would include to rotate downward the piece of music, and a restrictor was established to monitoring the amount. Human beings go there since of the piece of music, says Officer Alvaro. I love peaceful places on my day off, but the is Sa Trinca. The Ibizan authorities say how piece of music in outdoor air venues love Sa Trinca must be covered at 65 decibel, lightly louder rather than a regular talk but quieter rather than largest vacuo cleaners. Andreas Simon is portion of a society team named Musica SI, or Affirmative to Piece of Music, has been set up to struggle the changes. He shows me a live video how the team is dividing on public print. It points out how the ordinary audio of traffic sound is 70 decibel, time an aircraft disembarkation reaches a amount of 110 decibel. Mr. Simon says the authorities came to set a piece of music restrictor in one bathing beach bar in the city of San Antonio at 7 a.m. one night. Though the bar was blank and the piece of music was away, the restrictor showed a read of 72 decibel. This proprietor requested, "So who do you penalty? The sea or the wave propagation or the breeze?" Mr. Simon says the authorities' quilled attitude to regulatory isn't work. Which we ask for is a particular decision for each location. When one location has no neighbors, it can include louder piece of music. This by the government there wants to do human beings know how piece of music is sound. Piece of music is not sound, piece of music is a portion of the civilization. Down there has to be a sensible decision since out of piece of music, the Isle is corpse. Marta, an Ibizan DJ who performs by the Phase behalf Hoffman Lalio Parda, agrees. She says how little venues arranged off of housing areas really be object to the identical rules as excellent clubs La Ushuaia. They wish to halt all, she says. Yet we're earning along various groups to exceed forces. Musicians, painters and human beings who loving the arts. We're departure to struggle versus these rules how our creature superimposed on us. The slight bit of civilization the Isle has leftward is quick vanishing. Recent year, 3.2 million tourists attended Ibiza. Through the 4 persons Balearic Islands of Ibiza, Formentera, Majorca and Menorca travel accounts for 45% of GDP and a tertiary of all jobs. But balance the travel segment in the as necessary of regional residents is proof more hard. While a socialistic coalition took monitoring of Ibiza's steering justice in 2015, reining in travel was center to their manifest. Vicente Torres Ferrer is Ibiza's CEO of travel. He says down there is no issue in noisy piece of music in close clubs and how Ibiza has this top discos in the planet, but while it comes to outside venues the residents must be deliberate. We aware how piece of music is really essential for our propose in Ibiza, we don't wish to halt how. The issue comes while we include illicit parties in individual villas or piece of music plow really deceased at overnight in outdoor places. Mr. Torres Ferrer says contemporary sound machinery can be utilized to hold piece of music within a location, at a reduced amount. If you include a patio and you include one block suspended of a side, you include to act the piece of music really firmly so how it arrives at the recent spreadsheet. Yet if you include 4 persons units in a specific path, later the piece of music doesn't go off. You can listen the piece of music a slight bit but he's really cheap. Some changes are creature done to color downward the Isle's picture as a side purpose. Stick in San Antonio's western end potable stripe now shut at 3 a.m. instead of 5 a.m. This previous close doesn't indicate how San Antonio doesn't wish nightlife. If you wish to go on possessing a side, you can go to the discos and go on celebration yours fiesta down there, says Mr. Torres Ferrer. but lots say the over-curfew has just spurred revelers onto the gateway, and the actual issue in San Antonio is a absence of police force. Carlos is a cab motorist and an Ibizan home. Down there are so lot narcotic dealers, and down there are not quite police force in the road, he says. Martin Peacemaker agrees. He excited to Ibiza of the UK in 1991 and describes oneself as a visible entrepreneur in the San Antonio region. Close stick previous has inflicted more than problems rather than he's allowed. He's put thousands of human beings on the road over. At the end of the date, he's the criminality on the gateway. How's the issue? I ask him unaccountable of prostitute and hooliganism in San Antonio. He's real. Down there are gangs about who are intention on challenging these various of problems, he says, but argues it would be lightweight for the authorities to mark out how behavior if they requested to. 10 more than police force on the road on a nighttime base would resolve more than or less than whatever, but sadly they're not capable to do how. So why aren't down there more than police force? Ibiza's travel CEO Vicente Torres Ferrer lays the accused directly in the X by the government in Madrid and the budgeting intermittent attached by later Prime Secretary, Mariano Rajoy, in the wake-up of the 2008 finance meltdown. We had the economic issue all above the planet, but Spain in special had a really big issue, he explains. So they done really powerful restrictions in procedure to include the cash consumable by social administrations. Ibiza has requested the new by the government in Madrid to enable it to expend more than on main services and use more than police force. The Isle has as well cracked downward on lodging sites, and try to give spiraling rent expenses by monitoring. He's now illicit for tourists to lease apartments on the Isle. Time houses or villas can be leased just if characteristic owners receive a license. In spite the changes, blood pressure is house for more than to be made. A regional team named Pru Catalonian for Quite has 8,000 Facebook members. The team urged to protect and defend Ibiza of above tourism and the criminality, illicit building and ecological harm it says comes in it. Yet several original inhabitants are fleeing out of forbearance. Cab motorist Carlos says several of Ibiza's 140,000 constant residents are examining outgoing the Isle for nice. Lot regional human beings who've lived there for the recent 40-year, we're thought on outgoing since we don't love the Ibiza for our family, he says. In the recent 10-year, lot include leftward Ibiza to begin new lives on Majorca or the Spanish continent, he adds. The changes to piece of music venues, bar discovery several hours and caps on lodging do appear to be possessing an impact. Visitor numbers were downward 4% for the monthly of July and 3% in August, compared in recent year. San Antonio entrepreneur Martin Peacemaker says the Isle is grappling in the year-old issue of how to balance the as necessary of residents and tourists. He's a chick and egg position. Out of the residents you refuge got the tourists, out of tourists, you refuge got the residents. We've got to discover a trade-off.